Hey there, what's up? My name is Ricky, and I've never really made any videos before. Not sure if this is the first one I'll ever upload. Not sure if I'll ever upload this. But it is currently 4:24 a.m. in the morning, and I wanted to re-record myself taking the political compass test. Um, there's a lot of things happening in 2020 that warrant kind of reassessing your beliefs. And especially just trying to make sure, like, where do I sit? Why do I sit there? And, what do I actually believe? Because I think a lot of people don't pay attention to that. So I know this isn't like the end all be all, the best gauge of your political beliefs or your social beliefs or whatever it may be, but this is a pretty good test. It has a lot of questions. Um, and yeah, we're gonna take it. I'm gonna give my rationale for why I pick what I pick. Um, and there are things that on a different day I might answer slightly differently because I might think about the question differently. The wording of this is important to take into consideration. But yeah, we're just gonna dive right into it and take the test. Um, and I don't think there's like a short or a long version. I think this is just the test. Page 1 of 6. How you see the country and the world. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. I would say I would agree. I think that transnational corporations to exist would have to, in some way, serve humanity. Um, so I kind of think that this question's a little bit weird. I think that, you know, corporations that obviously disregard humanity will probably not succeed. So that's why I'm not going to go strongly agree because I think the question's worded a little weird, but I think I pretty much agree. I'd always support my country whether it's right or wrong. Strongly disagree. It's ridiculous. Nothing about your country. Um, Nothing about your country is worth believing in something, worth supporting something wrong. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I disagree. It's foolish to feel superior of to somebody else because of it, but there's no harm in taking pride of where you're from. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. You don't even have to talk about that. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Strongly disagree. There's a lot of complicated rivalries out there. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. I'll agree because a lot of international law is dumb. Um, a lot of it is corrupt and a lot of it is kind of a joke. And a lot of it is applied really unfairly. So that's just not good. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I This is hard because I don't think the fact that entertainment and information are mixed is the problem. I think that because they're mixed, stuff that is not information but kind of looks like information that is entertainment is starting to be taken seriously. So I'll agree reluctantly, but it's not because entertainment and information can't go together. It's because the implications of that can lead to bad things. People are ultimately divided by class, more by class than nationality. This is about the economy and attitudes here, not numbers. I would agree with this. I certainly think that class is divided by nationality pretty well. I think that in this country, at the very least, people of color have definitely been pushed into the lower class, but membership in the lower class generally probably leads to more problems than nationality in actual lived experiences for people, especially geographically. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I mean, they go hand in hand. It's a push and pull relationship. But I I would say agree. But like I said, they're directly related, so it's kind of hard to choose one. I'll actually disagree with that. this I don't like this question. I think that lowering unemployment is good until you get it into that nice range, but then inflation should be, I don't know. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Strongly agree that's basic economics. Negative externalities are not going to be taken into consideration by corporations or anybody, because it's illogical. It's not, using your utility functions is not rational. From each according to his ability to or each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Not fundamentally. It's no. In bigger societies, societies the size of which we understand, this does not work. Simply because it's unrealistic. I know that it's kind of cringe to say that. People may say that, it's never really been tried, whatever. But for Marxism to really work, individual accountability needs to happen. You need to be able to hold each individual accountable for non-agile behavior. And in the societies, the scales of which we are used to, that is impossible. The freer the market, the freer the people. I would disagree. This is not a blanket statement. To a point, yes, having no market means people are not free. But antitrust laws, monopoly laws, price gouging laws, things like that, that has to happen for people to truly be free and able to live. It's a sad reflection in our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. I don't think that it's a sad reflection on our society strictly because, at least in Ohio, water is also free. It'd be bad, a sad reflection, like a really sad reflection, if it was only a branded consumer product. But the fact that you can buy nice bottled water, but you still have, acceptable water that you can drink, in my opinion, is fine. So I'm going to lightly disagree with that. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. I would disagree. I don't think the way that it's currently bought and sold is good. I don't. This is my problem with a lot of the questions, and this is why I'm not going to trust exactly where I come out on this compass, because this makes it seem like if I disagree that I'm fine with this, which I'm not happy with the way that this happens in real life. But in general, land not being bought and sold or owned at all would be very confusing and hard with the amount of people we have. Excuse me. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. I would agree. I don't think that earning money this way is bad, but personal fortunes is the key word here. I think there are people who, don't do much for society, realistically. They do some, they can grow money in some ways, which is a weird concept in general, but they can grow money for other people, and that's not bad. But the fact that people can just do that and have far more lavish lives than somebody who does, the most essential job in the world, like grow grain or food or something like that, that's it seems kind of wrong to me. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Yes, but not in individual trade. Not in person-to-person trade. Really in the bigger scheme of things, like on the corporation level. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. The only social responsibility should be? No. I don't know. This is hard. Because realistically, that's the entire point of a company. But Like, this is just like an a priori, like, it feels like they should have some sort of obligation to their customers as well. But then again, yeah, because customers just shouldn't, people should not shop with a company and allow a company to profit that doesn't care about them. So, yeah, I'll disagree. The only thing that they're obligated to have, that they should be obligated to have, should be the responsibility to deliver a profit to their shareholders. But if they want to succeed, they should want to make customers happy. And you're not going to do that without having some sort of other responsibility, hopefully. The rich are too highly taxed. That's laughable. Disagree. You should not be able to have more money than you can ever spend in your entire life. That's ridiculous. Those with the ability to pay should have higher access to higher standards of medical care. I mean, I'm going to lightly agree. I think that everybody should have a level of health care that will allow them to survive. Absolutely. But there are also some, experimental surgeries, or, maybe a surgeon that is better or more renowned or something like that. If you consider that higher standards, which I do, then people who, it'd be unrealistic for everybody to have access to experimental procedures or something like that. So, yeah, in a way, people should have higher standards of medical care who can pay, but the people who have less money should absolutely have an acceptable standard of medical care. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. I would strongly agree. Pretty much the way that we can ensure that trade is truly free is that we try. The entire benefit of a free market is that people are able to act in accordance to their utility functions. They're able to consume the products and the services that they benefit from and that they utilize the most. And that requires some level of information. And if businesses are purposefully misleading people, they are basically taking the point away from the free market, or taking the merit away from the free market. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. I strongly agree, simply because the market itself may be less free, but the market is also comprised of all the individuals that create the economic activity within it. And for them to truly be free, they need choices. That would be like saying that the election where Putin is the only candidate that can win is a free election because you have the right to vote for anybody on the ballot, but there's only one person on the ballot. It's not free. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. I strongly disagree. I think that that's a personal choice. All authority should be questioned. Strongly agree. The entire point of our country being founded was that the authority was questionable, and they questioned it. And they even wrote into the Declaration of Independence, a tyrannical government must be checked. Maybe it wasn't the Declaration of Independence. Maybe it was the Constitution. Maybe it was both. I don't know the Declaration of Independence word for word. All I know is the Founding Fathers absolutely believed that all authority should be questioned. And if it's tyrannical, or if it's overstepping its boundaries, if it no longer serves the people, it should be overthrown. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It's a stupid mantra. There are some times where things would be best left alone. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I would strongly agree, because on a commercial basis, strictly... yeah, I'll go agree. I think there are maybe a couple exceptions, things that are purely educational. But people choose with their money for the most part. They choose what's important to them and what's not. The only thing that should be expected to prop up anything is maybe something that people don't want to pay money for, but it's actually benefiting them being there, whether they use it or not. So maybe, yeah, maybe agree. Maybe agree. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I agree, but I think that parents should be held accountable. Parents should be held accountable, not the children, not the specific classroom attendance. It should be parents have an obligation to not let their kid go uneducated, one way or the other. All people have their rights, but it's better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. That's ethno-tribalism, nationalism, whatever you want to call it. That's an authoritarian leader away from fascism right there. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I would agree. I really just... That's hard. I don't know. There are members of my family I know for a fact would have destroyed their parents. I don't think that any sort of force that's going to cause any real sort of injury should ever be used, but I don't think that a spank is necessarily always that. And I'm happy to be proven wrong on that as well. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Strongly agree. Agree. It's natural. Doesn't mean it's good, but it's natural. And also, maybe it is good. Parents aren't always rational when it comes to their children anyway. They know more, certainly, but they're not always rational. And that's the worry. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree. It's no worse than alcohol. And honestly, legalizing it would bring in so much tax money. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. I disagree. I don't think that you can say that would be the prime function. I think the prime function is to turn them into respectable citizens. Respectable citizens should be able to find some sort of job, but jobs is not the end-all be-all goal. It's a society of high-functioning people. People with serious inheritable disease or disability should not be allowed to reproduce. I have beliefs about this, but I'm going to disagree just because that's kind of it's kind of authoritarian. That's kind of I don't know. It just seems like an overstepping of the government's reach to say that they shouldn't be able to reproduce. I do think that maybe if I had a serious inheritable disease, I would feel extremely guilty about reproducing and bringing a child into the world that's going to suffer in that way. I would feel extremely guilty, but it's hard for me to say that I have to tell other people that they're not allowed to do that. The most important thing for my children to learn is to accept discipline. I disagree. There are a lot of sources of discipline that aren't just. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. The way that this is worded, I don't agree with Ben Shapiro on pretty much anything. Right? He's a far right, a little bit libertarian. I respect the libertarian part, but he's far right. He's extremely religious. I'm not. I watched him take this test, and this question is one where I would agree with him that it is worded in such a way that makes you think that there are savage and civilized people. Absolutely. But when it says peoples, I think that it's referring to ethnic groups or cultures or countries or ethnicities. Whatever that is supposed to mean is supposed to paint you as bad. So, I'm going to say agree, but I don't like the way this question is worded. It's like a leading question, I think. Maybe not. I don't know how exactly it functioned into the algorithm, but I couldn't see any other way for it to be implemented. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. I would agree, strongly even. I think that some people's definition of able to work and some people's definition of refuse the opportunity are too loose. But given like a realistic, like pragmatic sort of definition for both of those phrases, I would strongly agree. When you are troubled, it is better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I would disagree, but I mean, this completely depends on what you're troubled over. Is it something that you have control over? Or is it something that is, irrational? If it's irrational, then you should keep busy. If it's rational, or if it's something you can fix or you have any sort of control over, you should absolutely not do that. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. I agree with this. A big part of your personality and your worldview and how you act is nurture. You learn it. And there are norms. Yeah, I would disagree just because you could come from somewhere that's pretty similar. But I think that if you come from a place with fundamental differences, like a different worldview, like a Western society into an Eastern society, or vice versa, that this would be true. There are parts of your nurture that you cannot unlearn because you learn them so early, or at the very least that you'll never learn them the way that somebody was born there would. I don't think that you can always be fully integrated, but I think never is too strong of a word. What's good for the most successful corporations is always, ultimately, good for all of us. I would disagree. Strongly disagree. What's best for Amazon is for them to pay no taxes and for them to get a monopoly, and to continue to grow and own everything. That's not good for us. That's not good for us at all. Once they get so powerful, they can just undercut all the competition, and then they have a monopoly again. And then they'll bust the monopoly, but they have so much money, they'll just find a new way to reinvent it somewhere else. It's not good. No broadcasting institution, no matter how independent its content, should receive public funding. Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Think that that's completely something that people should decide with their money and their time and their attention. Because then all of the bad information, whether it's, left wing, right wing, in the middle, whatever, will be decided by the people who it's meant to serve. That's good. How you see the wider society. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I would disagree. I think that counterterrorism measures go about as far as they probably should. A significant advantage of one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. It's a weird question. I say strongly agree, but that doesn't mean that I think that a one-party state is good. I think that a one-party state would be fucking horrible. But this is the one good thing about it. It's the only good thing about a one-party state. Still, its other shortcomings far outweigh this one positive, but to say that this is not a significant advantage of a one-party state would be wrong, because that is one area in which it excels. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. I would say no, because wrongdoers probably appeals to some idea of wrongness, which, implies an idea of rightness. And that's subjective. So it could be completely up to people in power that are so far removed from you that they have way different beliefs than you. And they don't even have to act in accordance with the law. It's been proven. People will find shit to make up about you to arrest you. Everybody has to be worried. I mean, only the wrongdoers generally will be punished, but everybody else should be worried. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I strongly agree. I mean, the most serious crimes, though, is like... the bar is higher than most people who support the death penalty would say it is for me. Much higher. Much higher. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and below to be commanded. I would strongly disagree. I would disagree. I think that obeyed and commanded are bad words here. That just sounds authoritarian to me. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. The interpretation of art is extremely subjective. Abstract pretty much means... what does abstract actually mean? Like, what's the technical definition? Existing in thought or as an idea but not having a physical or concrete existence. I mean, it sounds like if it doesn't represent anything and it doesn't actually exist, it sounds like it's nothing. But if we're looking at abstract as in relating to or denoting art that does not attempt to represent external reality, but rather seeks to achieve its effect using shapes, colors, and textures. So if it doesn't represent anything and it's not using the actual form of something, it's still art. It's meaningless, but it's still art. It doesn't have to be meaningful to be artistic or to be aesthetically pleasing or anything like that. That's weird. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. No. Punishment should be pretty much reserved for things that can't be rehabilitated. Or, somebody who's proved that they're incapable of being rehabilitated. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. I strongly agree, but I think that it's a very small amount. I think some is a good word here. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. More important, as in they actually affect more change into the world? Yes. Do I think that they're more important? The jobs are more important than these jobs. Doesn't mean that the people are more important than the people. It doesn't mean that they're better. It just means that without them, the world would suffer more. That sounds bad, but take it strictly literally, and not saying that writers and artists don't mean anything, because they do. Mothers may have careers, but it's their first duty to be homemakers. Get out of here with that shit. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetics resources of developing countries. No, I mean, realistically, no, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's unethical, but it would be less ethical if they took them away. That's maybe an argument for another. No. If they're choosing it, that means it's their best option. Their best option should be a lot better. That's true. And the company can afford to pay them more. That's also true. But it's still technically better than them not giving them the option to work in that situation, or, not having that business at all, because realistically, if they had a better option, they would take it. Which really sucks. It's a really shitty way to think about it, but it's the truth. They choose their best option, and if their best option is working for, this shitty company that's paying them shitty wages, unfortunately, that is literally the best option that they have. Which is horrible to think about. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. No. Strongly disagree. No, fuck that. The establishment doesn't always deserve our peace, and it's more an aspect of assimilation than maturity. Maybe that's the same thing. Who knows? Astrology accurately explains many things. I'm going to strongly disagree. You can't be moral without being religious. I'm going to strongly disagree. I don't know anything about astrology, but realistically, it seems baseless, entirely baseless. You cannot be moral without being religious is just wrong. People could argue that maybe your morality is meaningless or it's baseless, but you can absolutely base it off of things other than some objectivity through religion. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Yes, I would say, because charity is. No, I don't know. I mean, Social Security is pretty universal. Um, so, what you pay in is what you get out. So I would say yeah, but then again, charity is ineffective often. But letting the kind of free market do it generally works. It doesn't always. It certainly doesn't always. But Social Security sucks too. Some people are naturally unlucky. I strongly agree. I mean, there's something that we can't comprehend that just affects some people more. I wouldn't say that there are many people who you can blame their entire life if they've failed a lot on luck, but I mean, it happens. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Strongly disagree. I think as long as they install being a good person, doesn't matter if it's religiously based or not. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Strongly disagree. It's only immoral if it's dishonest. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. I strongly agree. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. I strongly agree. Who does it fucking hurt? Come on. What goes on in a private bedroom between two consenting adults is no business of the state. Strongly agree. No one can feel naturally homosexual. It's ridiculous. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. That's hard. I don't think there's anything wrong about being open with sex. I just think that social media makes it really accessible to like children, which kind of sucks. I don't think it's gone too far. I think that the other things in society have made the fact that openness about sex has gone as far as it has makes that not good. But it's not the fault of openness about sex. Alright, so this is... Okay, so I'm more libertarian and less left than I thought I was. But yeah, so these are my coordinates. Negative 1.63 on the left-right scale and negative 4.1 on the social libertarian scale. This is, of course, just according to the politicalcompass.org test. I'd be interested in taking some more, but these are my coordinates right now, as of 7/20/2020. Yeah, if you've taken this, let me know where you ended up. I don't know if anybody will ever even see this, so this is kind of weird. But regardless, yeah, this has been my long-winded late night extravaganza of taking a political test. I'm currently sitting in Russia on my VPN, evidently. Great. All right, see you later.